Hello, I'm William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and I agreed at the request of some friends that I would watch through this video, Mass of the Ages, the second episode, because I guess they believe it makes a case for the Latin Mass, and argues that the Mass promoted after the Second Vatican Council is somehow false. But I was going through this video this evening a little bit. I was actually making another video which I'll publish, but there was this one spot in the video where I came to this guy. He's like a representative of something called the Latin Mass Society. I know nothing about this stuff, but he tries to make the case here, this guy here, he tries to make the case that the saints didn't care about the substance of the Mass or the content of the Mass liturgy, that comprehension is not important, that all that matters is devotion, sort of like the devotional experience that's produced by the Mass. And as I was watching, I laughed when I came to this point, because this is just the clearest articulation of the reality that this traditional Latin Mass argument is just Protestantism. What I want you to see here is this guy in the video, and again, I'm just pulling this clip out of it. This guy argues that the saints didn't care about understanding the content of the Mass, and that comprehending the Mass is not important. What matters are basically 3 or 4 things. First of all, he quotes Thomas Aquinas and says Thomas Aquinas taught us that singing is important. That's what Thomas Aquinas had to say, that singing is important. Secondly, that it needs to be in Latin for some reason. It needs to be in Latin. Thirdly, you don't need to understand it. Comprehension doesn't matter. You don't have to understand anything. Nobody cares about that stuff. Fourth, you need to have a devotional experience. That's what really matters, that you have a devotional experience. So in your ignorance, whether you understand it or not, that's not relevant. What matters is that you have a devotional experience. That's what really matters. And you probably won't believe me when I tell you that that's what he says, but I want you to listen, because he explicitly says that comprehension doesn't matter. It's not important. What matters is that you have a devotional experience, an ignorant devotional experience, whatever that means. Listen to this guy. This is entertaining.
There's a real tension. There's a real tension between liturgical prayer, as it's always been understood, and the way the Novus Ordo tries to grab your attention in order to keep you awake, keep you engaged, giving you new ideas, having a theme for the Mass that keeps coming back to something or other. That's what you do in a lecture. The great saints of the past, some of them were very simple, some of them were very complicated. Some of them were great theologians, some of them were unlettered. How did they engage with the Mass?
Listen to this.
It wasn't about understanding everything that happens, it's about devotion. So what does increase devotion? Well, like St. Thomas Aquinas said, singing, having it in Latin because it's a sacred language. You can see the care that's being taken. This is a sacred language, it's appropriate to these sacred rites. Having it in silence is a way of emphasizing its holiness. It's a way of exciting devotion. Now, all these things, people say, well, they're barriers to comprehension. Well, how important is that compared with the effect it has on devotion? And actually, how much of a barrier is it?
So there he goes. I mean, this is gold. This is gold. The saints, many of them were just simple people who maybe they didn't even understand what was going on, because nobody cares about that stuff. I like how he argues this like careful argument where he says singing arouses devotion and silence arouses devotion. So if this is true, then some kind of silent singing would be ideal for Mass. He gets to the point where he says, well, if we've got all these things going on, someone's going to say, but I don't understand. And his response is, so what? Are you having a devotional, are you being aroused to have some devotional experience? That's what really matters. And so we see, this is where I think, in this one clip, I think we see what the real substance of this Latin Mass argument is. It's that people are going to a Latin Mass, modern people are going to a Latin Mass, and the Latin Mass, with all of the appearances, with all of the sounds and silences, with all of the candles and the incense, which are present at a modern Mass, but just it's different. It gives them a certain feeling. It causes them to feel like they're having a devotional experience. And that's true religion. That's real religion. Having a devotional feeling, a devotional experience, that's real religion. We don't need to understand it. We don't need to comprehend. We don't need to hear the readings. We don't need to understand the words of the hymns or the prayers. That's not what really matters. What really matters, the argument here is, what really matters is how we're affected by what goes on. That's what really matters. How we're affected. Whether we have a devotional experience. That's what really matters. And so I found this really great because this has been my argument all along. I never thought somebody would actually articulate it. But the argument here very clearly is that we need to stop talking about understanding things and stop worrying about comprehension when we go to Mass, and just ask whether or not we have a devotional experience. That's what really matters. So anyway, I thought that was entertaining. This video, Mass of the Ages, I mean, this is just the most absurd nonsense I've seen. But, people love it. Modern Christians, they gobble this stuff up. And they love the idea that you can be like a saint and have no idea what's going on so long as you have a devotional experience. And that's exactly what Protestantism teaches. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. God bless.